Carousel of Connor.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Carousel of Connor. Today I'm going to talk about what it's like living in Orlando, Florida, the 3 months edition. I did do a previous living in Orlando video, but that one was only about 3 weeks into me moving here. And since I got so many requests for another one, I decided to do a 3 months edition. Last time I organized it into pros and cons, but this time I'm going to do different topics, and we're going to start with Orlando, Florida specific topics, and then we're going to go into more general moving topics after that. That brings us to our first Orlando, Florida topic, and that is jobs. Now my previous living in Orlando video, and I will link that in the description below if you guys want to watch it, I covered a lot of topics including jobs, but now that I have a little more time actually applying to different jobs and going to interviews for jobs in Orlando, I thought it'd be good to add this in because I can give a little more insight. So if you're wondering how easy it is to get a job in Orlando, Florida, I'm gonna actually say that it is pretty easy. But before I do say how simple it is, I just want you guys to kind of have a little disclaimer here that I'm only gonna be able to talk about the specific jobs that I have applied for. I know a little bit about other jobs, which I will get into right after this, but I just want you guys to know that I really can only speak on what I've experienced. I'm a journalist and I currently freelance for a site that I was working for when I was living in New Jersey, so that's been nice because I've had steady money coming in, but I am looking for something a little more long-term and a little more consistent as far as pay. And I've applied to probably, since I moved here, at least over 40 different organizations, places, and probably in like 4 different capacities too. So I feel like I'm gonna cover a lot of ground here. As far as like sports reporting goes, that's what I was doing in New Jersey. I'm no longer doing that. I mean, I'm trying to do that. I was trying to find different outlets. I am still freelancing, which is great. It's from a position I had back in Jersey. But as far as like in Orlando, I haven't seen tons of sports jobs opened. And I have a lot of that I feel like has to do with COVID-19 as well, which like, you know, whether you want to talk about COVID or not, that is going to be like kind of a topic here because it does play into so much things that I've kind of dealt with in my experience of moving to Orlando. But one thing I will say as far as reporting, there are a lot of different like Disney reporting jobs where you can go in the parks. A lot of them do require though you have an annual pass, which makes it a little more difficult if you don't, especially if you don't now. You don't really know when you're going to get it because Disney hasn't said like when they're going to open up the annual passes for Disney World again. So that may make it a little more difficult. I've applied to a couple and I've actually never heard back. So in that sense, I would say that was a little more difficult. One thing I just want to say real quick is with all the channels on YouTube, it's pretty crazy, right? Like the amount of content that's on YouTube and how many different channels there are, especially Disney too. So the fact that you guys are taking the time out of your days to watch this right now and just watch my other videos and support my channel. I mean, we're up to almost like 390 subscribers. I mean, guys, it means so much that out of all these channels, you guys choose this one to take some time out of your day to watch. And I just want to thank you guys for that. But the next 3 capacities I found rather easy. Now my college degree is in journalism, but I was working as a bartender back in New Jersey just for extra cash. So I did apply to a couple of jobs here, and I did hear back and I actually did get a job interview and a job offer. The minimum wage in the state of Florida is $8.65, and the tipped wage in the state of Florida is actually $5.63. So you're not going to become a millionaire by bartending or being a waiter or waitress, but you are going to get tips, which obviously if anybody has been in the industry as far as restaurants, bartending, things like that, you know that's where the money is. This may not be for everybody because you're not going to get the benefits that come with like other jobs, but it is good pay, fast, and you can usually get these jobs pretty fast, especially in a tourist area like Orlando. Like I said, I was able to get a position rather quickly. I think I applied and then like 2 days later I heard back already. So, and I didn't even apply that many restaurants because I had heard back so fast that I really didn't need to. One last thing to note too about bartending is I actually got the job as a waiter. I was going to be like a split guy. So then when the bartenders weren't there, if they were sick or whatnot, I was gonna be a bartender that day, but usually I'd be a waiter, which I was actually excited about that because I figured as a waiter, you probably make more money just because the bills are gonna be larger. I also had like no experience as a waiter too, so I think I can show you guys how easy it is to get a position like that because I do have bartending experience and I did like run food and stuff at the other bars and restaurants I worked at. but I never was an actual like waiter. So yes, I had a little bit of experience, but I actually never had experience as an actual waiter itself. An outlet that I found pretty easy to break into right off the bat was hotels. And when I talk about hotels, I'm talking about mainly like front desk jobs. I applied to a bunch of different places, mostly with Wyndham, Hilton, or Marriott. And that might not seem like a lot, but those 3 hotel companies own a lot of other hotels. I have zero experience working in the hotel industry, but it is something I always kind of had an interest in. If I always said that if I wasn't gonna be like a journalism major, that the hotel industry was something I kind of wanted to maybe like try. There's obviously tons of opportunity with hotels here because there are so many hotels in this area with all the theme parks and resorts and different things like that. You have to have places to stay, and that's where, you know, you could come in. A tip of advice I give to you guys too, being someone who had zero experience, one thing I just did was I kind of just Googled things that different like hotel companies might look for, and then I just kind of went on my resume and saw like what I did in the past and kind of compared it and then just wrote it differently. So even though I didn't have the hotel management, I had a lot of skills that hotels are looking for. And you can do the same thing if you're looking to be a waiter or bartender. You know, just look up your previous skill set from your previous jobs and try to translate that to working at like a restaurant or a bar or a hotel. I did hear back from a hotel and I got an interview, and I thought it went really well. I ended up not getting the position, but I still looked at it as I gained experience. The position I ultimately took is a mailman. This is obviously one of the better paying jobs as far as the other 2 I talked about, especially long term, because it is a government job. And if you are interested in doing something like that, it's really not that hard to break into from what I found. I did apply to a lot of places in New Jersey, and I heard back from like 6 or 7 places in New Jersey in the span of like a month, where here it was much slower. I wasn't hearing back right away, and ultimately I only ended up hearing back from 2 places. The good thing about that though is the 2 places I did hear back, I got both of those jobs. So you don't need experience as a mail person to get this kind of job, but one thing I will warn you is every position with the post office, from what I heard, especially in this area at least, that's really all I can talk for, it starts part-time. So it's not actually a full-time position just yet, but it does lead to a full-time position if you can kind of stick it out. And like I kind of said before, I really was looking for a long-term position in this, you know, almost a career rather than just a job. So that's why I thought this was an important step to take. So that's it for my personal like job experience as far as Orlando goes. But one thing I will say is that my dad is also a truck driver, so I know that that's very possible too. Now he does have a CDL license, which you're gonna have to have, but there are tons of truck driving jobs around here if that is something that you've done in the past. Also, for anybody in the medical field, I don't know anybody in the medical field, but just from doing a lot of research and seeing a lot, I know that the Lake Nona area, if you are in the medical field, that's where you want to go. That's where a lot of the hospitals are, and that's where a lot of those jobs are available, because I know a lot of people are nurses and different things like that. So if you are in that kind of capacity, you might want to look at Lake Nona when you're kind of planning your move to Orlando. On my previous Living in Orlando video, a lot of people were asking about Disney World and Universal working for those companies. One thing I can say for sure from when I was looking is that Universal did have a lot more options other than Disney World. I think that's because they're kind of going back more to normal faster than Disney is, just from the gist of what I've gotten from going to the parks. But it seems like Universal is allowing more jobs and they have a little more available, so if something fits you, you know, definitely go apply for that. But if you're really stuck on working for Disney and Universal, you look at their options. You know, they have great career sites. You can go on there and pretty much you just type in your address, what's closest to you, where you want to work, what kind of platform you want to work in, and they'll give you what's available. This next topic is definitely not as crucial as jobs, but it is something that I think maybe a lot of people don't realize. That I know it's something that I didn't really realize either, because I think we get caught up in Orlando and the theme parks and everything like that, and we don't realize that there are actually a lot of farms and a lot of cows in the Orlando, Florida area. Now this may seem like kind of a weird topic to bring up, but I feel like this could maybe turn some people off just because they don't want the smell of the cows and things like that. But one thing I will say is we have a farm kind of close to us, and there's no cows, it's just a hay farm. But I think if you asked anyone in my family, they probably wouldn't even like know that it's there, just because it is kind of like out off to the side and it's not really that noticeable. There are a lot of cow farms. I really don't think that would be a problem for anybody unless they were living really close there and then we're getting like smells from the cow or things like that. But I did just want to put that out there in case that is a deal breaker for somebody. The next topic is kind of weird too, and a lot of people bring this up as a negative when I look at other videos that are talking about moving to, not even just Orlando, but Florida in general, and they say that Florida is flat, and that's one of the things they don't like. And yes, Florida is flat. One thing I will say about the area that we currently live in is that there's more hills here, because I'm a runner. There's more hills to run up here than there was when I was in New Jersey, which was also very flat because I was on a shore town. But my argument for people that are saying Florida is flat and a negative, like, didn't you know that when you were coming here, when you were planning to move here? Didn't you know that it was gonna be flat? Like, that's one of the things that I don't get, like, how that could be a negative. That's just my opinion. I find that a little confusing. But if you don't want to be where it's super flat, then you probably don't want to come to Orlando, Florida. This next topic comes from Super Sport, who commented on my previous Living in Orlando video. They asked about population, which I think is a great thing to talk about. Is Orlando, Florida kind of getting overpopulated, that kind of thing? This is, you know, the best site I could find as far as like year by year and the percentage increase each year. So this is what I'm gonna go by. So I'm just really gonna go back to like 2019. There was 1,923 people in Orlando, and it was a 2.18 increase from the year before. Then the next year it went up slightly. It went to 1,964,000, a 2.13 increase. And then actually the next increase into 2021 is the lowest it's been in the last 4 years. It went up to a 2,002,000. That's it. So 1.93 increase that was from 2020 to 2021. And yeah, Orlando is very populated, but if you actually look at the last 2 years, really, because it went down in 2019 and it also went down in 2021. So it actually seems like less people are kind of moving to the Orlando area. Just going by these stats, you can take those how you want. But that's what I'm kind of reading off here, and that's really all the information I give you guys on population. Another topic that I think is very important to talk about, especially in the Orlando area, especially if you're looking at Florida too, is what the COVID-19 situation is here. I've been getting tons of comments about COVID-19, and not even just through the Living in Orlando video, but just a lot of my videos in general, just saying like what are the precautions, that kind of thing. And one thing I just do want to preface early on is I feel like everybody has different opinions on this thing, and I'm not really, that's not what this is. I'm not going to go like what my opinions are on it or anything like that. As far as COVID goes, one thing I like about Florida now that I necessarily didn't like earlier on is the fact that the rules are a little more lax here. And what I mean by that is I feel like you're kind of like on your own. Like if you're a business owner, or if you're just a person, like if you want to go out to a restaurant and not wear a mask, you can do that most places. It's the same thing like if you're going to a store. A lot of stores do say wear the mask, but some stores don't really necessarily enforce that, and some stores don't even have signs to begin with. So if I'm in a store and I'm wearing a mask and I see somebody down the aisle, I just don't go down that aisle. I'll wait till they leave, or I'll just go another time. You know, it depends on how bad I need that item or not, but you just kind of have to work around to what you're comfortable with. And I really think that's what's kind of nice about Florida, is it's really up to you. And I think this also leaves out, you know, because I know in New Jersey a lot of small businesses were really hurting from this whole thing. So if you're a small business here, you can kind of still run operations like you did in the past if you want to, you know, if you can, if your customers are still doing that. The one last thing I want to talk about as far as Orlando, and this really isn't anything like too specific, but I did get a comment recently saying about, you know, people, if they want to move to Orlando, there's a lot more than just Disney World here, so they should go and experience that. I 100% agree with that. I want to do a lot more things in Orlando other than just Universal and Disney World. There is a lot more to offer, especially in the towns too around Orlando. There's a lot of different things you can do, a lot of great state parks you can go to. All this stuff is great. But one counter I would have to that statement, as far as not just doing Disney or Universal, like if you're moving to Orlando, because I know a lot of people do this, they move to Orlando. My family this was part of it, not everything, but part of it, is they want to move to Orlando to be closer to Disney World. Go experience other attractions, other places, state parks, things like that. Like that'll be great. But if you don't want to do that and you just want to go to the parks and that's why you moved here and that's what makes you happy, do you know, do that. Because I think that's really like kind of the whole key thing here, right? Like we move to places and we do different things, we make different life changes to make us happy, right? To kind of get that happiness that we're looking for. And if moving there does that for you, then do it. Now we're going to move on to some more general topics, and all of these do relate to Orlando and Florida. This really just relates to moving to anywhere, really. I mean, you can move to Saskatchewan, and these things are gonna fit you. One thing one of my subscribers, Carolyn, asked was, what's it like not being by your friends anymore and your family? Well, lucky for me, I moved with most of my family. My mom, my dad, my sister, my grandparents, and my brother are all here. So that made this super easy. Obviously, everyone's not gonna move here with their family. They might be moving by themselves. But for me, personally, I just thought that made the transition much easier. But again, not everyone's gonna be able to do that. As far as friends go, of course I miss my friends. One thing I would like to add to that though is, although I do miss my friends, I think COVID kind of almost made the whole thing easier, because when I was living in New Jersey, I still was not seeing my friends as much as I would normally because of, you know, the state was shut down for a little while, and then after that, you know, some friends were taking it more serious than others and things like that, and we weren't all like hanging out as much anyway. And I actually was like talking to them on the phone a lot and different things like that, a lot of like video chats, which is what I do now with them. So I feel like COVID kind of helped me for that. So yes, I do miss my friends, but at the same time, it's like I don't feel like I've lost any kind of connection with them. I feel like I have the same strength of relationship with all of them that I did before I moved here. This transitions perfectly to our next topic, which is how easy is it to make friends? I know I sound like a broken record, but COVID does kind of play a role in this as well, because like I said, people have different preferences, and some people don't want to go out and meet other people and things like that. So I think that would make it a little harder to find friends. I know for me, I kind of found like my niche. Like there's different things I like, so I try to find people in that niche, because then if you both like the same thing, that's kind of starting off for a friendship like pretty good, because you already have like a common thing that you guys can kind of like bond over and vibe over, which I think makes, you know, for a healthy relationship. So if you're into like rec sports or like photography or something like that, like see if you can find clubs, or like I said, like rec sports or something like that, then maybe you can go out and meet people at. Again, I don't know like what the COVID situations, if these clubs are operating the same that they were, you know, before this all happened, or same thing with sports, if they're still running like usual. But if they are, and that's like an outlet, maybe that would be your best way to go. But for me personally, I feel like I've not had a hard time making friends here in Orlando. Another topic I was asked about was neighbors. And so I'm actually currently living in like a vacation type area, which like a lot of these people aren't staying here for very long. And we actually have no neighbors. Like the one house isn't built yet next to us, and then the other house, no one has rented it out yet. So we actually don't have, as far as like neighbors like right there. We do have like some people like across the street, or like even like more farther down the street. But even then, I don't know if you guys can hear that. There's like a hammer going. Those are our neighbors. They're called construction workers, but right on cue. But what I was kind of saying too is we've had a couple of situations where you have like people that are on vacation. They're a little more loud, you know, but I almost like don't blame them, because they are on vacation. You know that they are, I think, you know, be a little considerate, I guess, if you are those kind of people and you are making a little more noise, that some people maybe do live here. But I think a lot of these people don't even realize that, because it almost is like a vacation resort place, that a lot of people don't expect like families to actually be like living here. I put neighbors in here because it was requested, but I think that's just like such a hard thing to talk about too with neighbors, is because like it varies with everybody, right? Like no neighbor's going to be the same most likely. So that's kind of, I think, just like up to what your experience is going to be like, and what that neighbor, what kind of person they are, and what kind of family they are. And then the very last topic to touch on is, am I happy in Florida? Will you be happy in Florida? I can't say it for you guys. I mean, that's why I'm pretty much making this video, is for you guys to decide that if you think this is the right move for you. But what I can say for me is 100% yes. Did I leave friends and jobs behind? Yeah, but I think overall, I think this was the best move for me personally. And so far, I have been really happy. Like I said, one of the few negative things I had was the jobs, but now that I have a job, I am feeling a lot more confident about the move here. I wanted to be closer to Disney World. I'm doing that. So overall, I am very happy. I'm also very happy to do this YouTube channel, which I wouldn't be doing if I had not moved to Orlando, Florida. So I'm so thankful for that. I'm very thankful for all the subscribers, everyone. You guys have been awesome. This community has really been just amazing. The growth of this channel has gone up very fast. We're averaging almost 100 subscribers each month, which is just amazing. I mean, we started this in late November, and we're closing in on that 400 subscriber mark. If I did leave out any topics that you guys were hoping I would touch on, maybe check that other video. Maybe I did touch on there, but if I did not, just put that in the comments below, guys. Ask me any question you want, I'll be happy to answer. If anybody has made the move to Orlando, Florida too, let me know in the comments below. What was your experience like? And also, if you are thinking about moving to Orlando, Florida, which if you're watching this, I'm pretty sure you are, just kind of let me know like where you're at in that process, because I am very interested in knowing. And if you aren't subscribed yet, guys, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next go around.